Well, morning, here we are, we're down at Sandhurst Lake, a bit sleepy this morning. Cold old night, we got it yesterday, and I was lucky enough to catch a nice common 32 pounder. So I'm going to show you the sort of just the rig and the basic setup I'm using, like, you know. Well, anyway, we turned up yesterday. I'm not really a Sandhurst regular or nothing, do you know what I mean? But I've got a lot of friends who are bailiffs and what have you, who are. So we got here yesterday and I spoke to a couple of the lads and they said, you know, in the last week there've been lots of anglers down, not a lot being caught, or, you know, for Sandhurst, by Sandhurst standards. Everyone putting lots of bait in, you know, it is that time of year after all. But everyone putting lots of bait in and not an awful lot coming of it. Fish not really showing, do you know what I mean? So basically you know what's happening out there. For those of you who've never been here before, you know, it's quite a bland lake from my perspective. There's no weed as such, very little variation in depth. To me, it's, you know, I'd call it as flat as a pancake, for want of a better word. There's no weed out there, very little in the way of snags, so you can imagine the lake bed is really polished. I mean, really clean over most of the lake. Little silty depressions, but for the most part, wherever you cast in this lake, with your eyes shut, over your shoulder, whatever, you'll get a real smack as the lead hits the bottom. So, you know, you come here, you approach it like you would any other lake of this type. You come here, you know, you spoke to the bailiffs, you've had a little bit of gen about what's happened the week before, lots of bait gone in, not a lot being caught. And all the lads, you know, they're all of the same opinion, and, you know, well, we'll fish singles or very small bags and just try and nick a bite. You know, with lots of residual food in the lake anyway, do you know what I mean? From an angler's perspective, it's the easiest and the best way to approach it. So, as usual, it's this time of year, you know, it's autumn time, we're starting to get the cold nights, 4 degrees this morning, coldest night of the year so far. The coldest night of the, you know, the approaching autumn, winter, whatever. So I like to feed them something. They want food, you know. I ain't going to use lots of food, but I want to use food. And one of the best bits of food for getting a quick bite is a bit of pepperami. Buy in any supermarket, everybody knows what I'm talking about anyway, but it's changed in recent years. You know, the proper pepperami is full fat, it's full of big white pieces of pork fat. It's really effective bait, very oily, kicks up a good signal for ages. And when it's on the bottom and it starts to wash out a bit, it's very visual as well, do you know what I mean? A bit too visual sometimes, but you can see how I'm fishing it. I've got it fished very basically, with a curved shanked hook, with a little bit of a shrink tube, silicone, just to bring it down level with the eye. You know, it hooks them very well.
But in this case, you know, it's a little bit on the hush list, this really, but I'm actually using for hook baits. I'm using a little bit of clover garlic, and it's something I've done quite a bit of in the past. And I mean, when you smell it, it's, you know why they eat it basically, and it's perfect. You know, little sort of couple little chunks of that on the ear, and that'll catch them all day long.
Had him on a maggot, that one. Certainly helped get a bite, I think. I'll go through. Around about 60 yards, 70 yards. I think, and I'll show you the rig when I put the fish back. We'll go through how I caught it. Now I'll just go threadle it onto dental floss. Like I say, about one end's a bit squidgy, that end, like, it's already pulled through the maggot, so I try not to put that bit in my mouth. But now I'll tie a couple of overhand knots, just making sure that the maggots ain't tangling it up as well. So like the first two, do it like so that they're above the maggots, and then like I'll pull it down, but try not to pull it too hard because you'll just split the maggots up.
beauty is with this rig, as I said, you can use any shape bait, an 18mm, chop, 14mm pop-up, standard pop-up, and these are little trout pop-ups that I've been making myself to fish over. I'm actually going to try it with this. If Jamie doesn't mind, I'm just going to talk you through something very quickly here. Now, while we've been doing this filming, I've done a night in the wooded area in the car park, back bay. I had a single bleep at 5 in the morning, and I had a single bleep at 9 in the morning. Now, I've got a tree just behind me that you can actually climb up and you can see the spot. Now, I know from when I got here yesterday, I've had tench coming in and out of this spot all night. This happened in the islands. I was getting the odd single bleep, I could climb up the tree, and I was watching the tench come in. I've watched them physically pick the rig up, bang, get away with it, spit the rig. Now this is the tench. Now if a tench is doing it, the carp's going to do it. Doesn't mean your rigs are rubbish, it means you just need to adjust your rig for the situation that you're fishing in. I've done this in the islands, just tweak the rig ever so slightly, load the rig back on the spot, and I know it sounds daft, because I'm going to say it's a tench. The same tench that I see come in and do the rig, I nailed straight away. So just by watching tench pick up a rig, you're learning how a carp's going to come in. Tench are a lot more finicky. If you're nailing them regular, you're going to nail carp. There's no way a carp's going to get away with it. So it's just why we've been sitting here with Jamie. I've come up with an idea that if I nail one of these tench, then I know if a carp comes in tonight, I'm going to hook it. There's no two ways about it. I just need to tweak the rig for the presentation that I'm fishing on and over. So this is what we're going to do.
When I got a fish on, I want a big hook in, as long as it's sharp. He said, but once you balance the bait out, he said the hook's really irrelevant because you're just balancing it around, and what he's trying to get is like a claw effect, if you like, and by using almost like a standard 2T, not a corkball one, whittle the sides down. Only do it a bit for the time being, just take the sides off, because that on its own would pop the hook straight up. And what you're trying to achieve, be it whatever way or form that you're attaching it to the back of the hook, is you're trying to get that hook to almost be a bit like a claw, just almost bouncing on the bottom, so that when the fish takes it in, the hook is almost in that position, so it sucks in, and you know, and your hook ratios, you're pretty much getting them in the bottom lip all the time. What I'm going to do is just show you how he's attached this, and he's tried it both ways. And normally when you tie a ring on, you'd come down the back of the shank of the hook here, where the blade would be. But what he's done is he's tied it this way round, inside the gape of the hook, going to the eye. But he's tried both, and he fishes a lot of sort of lots of fish waters sort of thing, you know, heavily stocked. And since he turned it around the other way and had the braid coming in the inside of the hook, like normally it's not, it would come out the back. He's tied it around this way, so the ring sits pretty every time. If you have a look at it where the ring's tied, people will normally have movement, but with the balance rig, he didn't want that. He wanted it just literally level with the point. So it's tied there, and then it's shrunk down. And so what you've got is really hardly any movement. But what that will do is almost every single time, that will keep the bait and the hook just literally just popped up in the right position. I'll show you how I attach it. Just pull it down onto the swivel, just onto the barrel. So now that bait can spin just freely on the back of the hook like so. More often than not,
I use this hook link, which is Suffix Cam Fusion. This is in the 15 breaking strain. It's a lovely hook link. It's got a really nice dark green coat in this one. It's got a nice supple braid inside. So you strip down probably about 3 inches, something like that. I'm doing it with my teeth, which you shouldn't do. Use a braid stripper if you can. Like I say, the braid inside's lovely and soft. I really like this one. It's got a nice little fleck through it, but it's never let me down. So what you do, wet the end of the hook link. You thread the hook link from the inside through to the outside of the eye. So snip off the required hook link length, again probably about 7 or 8 inches in this case. Now what you do, it's a little bit like the no knot rig, just a slight variation. As I say, you go 1, 2, keeping it nice and tight, move the head back, and you do a further 5 in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, keeping it tight at all times like the last time. You don't want to wrap the knot on top of itself, you want to wrap up the shank of the hook, keeping it tight at all times. You take your tag end of your hook link, pass it through the outside of the eye, back inside, like so. Pull it quite tight, bed the knot down a little bit. So as you can see, in this case, instead of the hair leaving right up the top end of the knot, it leaves nearer the eye of the hook. Once you've mounted your wafter bait on there, whatever it may be, a balanced boilie, or in this case I'm going to use a grain of maize and a grain of fake corn because it's a nice little delicate presentation. Once it goes into the fish's mouth, it goes in together, but then once it's in the mouth, it separates, allowing the hook to drop and pivot, and hopefully hooking the fish when he tightens into the lead. It's not about the super fandango rigs, it's about a good sharp hook and the right size of hook in relation to your hook bait choice. For example, as I said, it's a size 9 barbel hook there, with it like the grain of maize and the grain of fake corn, and that's perfectly balanced.
Well, we're down on Little Horseshoe today, and this is a venue where it's not your average sort of day ticket water though, is it?
No, it's quite a bit different.
I mean, it was
from that.
formerly a syndicate water, and it's one of them places where accuracy is just, you have to be
key.
Bang on.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things which, well, when I first ever met you, was one of the things which I really noticed that you and your brother both really went to a different league of anyone else that was around, you know, young or old. And I mean, I used to remember watching you down at Baggy Small Pond, going down there just to practice casting to far margins. And I'm slightly different to you. I tend to go in with particle quite a bit, don't I?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, everyone sort of.
Particles for me, everyone puts them in a spod mix, yet very few of them actually use it. I mean, corn is probably one of my favourite baits. Corn, maize, stuff like that, little nuts, tiger nuts. That, you know, if the venue lets you use them. I like that approach. I've never been a massive boilie user, although I am going more into it now, but now I'm using boilies. When I'm using that, 10 millers.
Yeah, little boys. That's another common mistake I see people making. They spot out all this corn, little bits and pieces, and fish like a 18mm boilie over the top. And the carp come in, they mop up the lot, and they know exactly what the hook bait is.
Yeah, it happens time and time again. We've seen it, you know, or people fish massive, great big snowman rigs.
Yeah.
Over small beds of particle and stuff like that. It's too blatant, I think so anyhow.